This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Welcome to today's video where I'm on a cruise ship because I figured this would be an appropriate time for me to talk to you guys about how I work with different brands and how I travel essentially for free. I am on this cruise. It is entirely paid for. I did have to pay for my flights, but that is worth it to me to be on this literally 11-day cruise in the Caribbean with Virgin. Now, this is a question I get a lot because people who are starting from ground zero, maybe you who are watching this video, you have no idea where to start. You don't have much of a portfolio, you know you want to travel, you know you want these free experiences, and you don't know what to do. So I'm gonna cover a little bit of that, but really the meat of this and how I can tailor my response to fit you personally is what I go through in my Passion to Profit mentorship program. So I assess where you're at, your skill level, what you want to do exactly, and I basically make an action plan for you, a step-by-step process in how to do that, how to start working with these brands, how to pitch them, how to build your portfolio, and how to start doing this either in your spare time or full time if you'd like. What I want to focus on today is my strategy in making the content for these brands, because that is essentially what is going to get you hired and get you rehired and get other brands eventually reaching out to you to want to supply these experiences for you. But really quickly, before we get into the content, I'll give you some high-level tips on what you can do or what you need to do to be able to start doing this kind of work. So if you're not familiar with me and you've landed on this video, hi, I'm Lizzie. I am now a YouTuber, a professional photographer, and content creator. However, in my previous life and still in my off time, I am a video producer. I run a video production company. Am I doing that as much anymore? I pick and choose the jobs I want to do because this is a lot more fun now. In a perfect world, here is what you would need in order to work with brands and travel for free. I would advise you start growing some kind of a following because it's just going to make it that much easier for you. You can make the content and you have a platform where the content can get seen by a larger audience. You're going to need a portfolio that shows that you can do the work and get the results. Now, how you are going to develop this portfolio when you're probably sitting at home going, I don't have anything right now, that is what I will work on with you in Passion to Profit, because it really depends on you and where you're at and what you have access to. I could give you a bunch of tips right now, but chances are you're gonna want that one-on-one support. That's just my experience. Let's talk now about the mentality I use when coming up with the ideas for content I'm going to produce for these clients, because they don't just want content that's pretty. Obviously, high quality content is important, but they want something that's going to produce an ROI, otherwise known as return on investment if you're not familiar with that term. They want to know that by putting money into you in coming on this excursion or trip or whatever, or even paying you, is going to come back to them down the line. Are you going to deliver a return on their investment? Now, how do you do that? They want bookings. The success of your content isn't always tied to a certain number of bookings. They can't track that. Like, you can't track how successful a billboard ad is and how many people booked off of seeing that billboard ad. So how we're gonna measure the success of content isn't on bookings, but it's by the reach that you generated. So whether this is with your own following or their following, depending on who you're producing the content for. In my case, I am contracted to produce content that is going up on my socials, specifically on my Instagram. If your client feels like you've created content that represents their brand well and accurately and views them in a positive light, and it gets great engagement, you've essentially done your job. Bonus points if you can prove that bookings have been made based on your posts. So I know a lot of you guys are creatives, and some creatives are gonna disagree with me on this, but I'm thinking right now in terms of a business. I want to get paid to travel and I don't want to pay for excursions. How am I gonna do that? What does the client want? How do I return that? They want bookings. Okay, I am their marketing sales budget. How do I pitch something to an audience that they're going to want to buy? So if I'm a person scrolling on Instagram and I'm thinking about going on vacation and I come across a reel about a Virgin Cruise Line, what do I want to know if I've never been on a cruise before?
You enjoying this video? Cool. Couple things I'm gonna ask you to do then. 1, maybe subscribe to my channel. 2, listen to me talk about Squarespace for a minute. Thanks. I used Squarespace to make my website. I legitimately did, even before they paid me to do this ad. The template I chose was clean and stylish, and I literally built it myself. I really struggle with design, but Squarespace made it super easy for me to showcase my portfolio beautifully. The platform is super easy for me to customize, update regularly, and I can get analytics about the purchases made on my digital products through my online store. And I run my own business, so I don't have time to learn a whole new platform. All right, so head over to Squarespace for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can use this code right here to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks, Squarespace. Now back to the video.
There are a few different things you can do when you're trying to sell something. You can show testimonials, you can show a great experience. You are mostly, though, myth busting. So what I mean by myth busting is you're addressing concerns, but in like a positive way. People want to see what the overall experience is on a Virgin cruise ship, but how do I do that while also giving them the information they want to know and answering those questions that they would have? Putting together just an overall montage of a trip showing how great it was with no information, no text, no voiceover, just some pretty clips. Yeah, it looks like a fantastic time, but I didn't learn anything. I don't know whether that's possible for me because I don't know the price. I don't know whether this is something I'd enjoy because I don't really know the nitty-gritty parts of it. Maybe I have a question about the food. Maybe I have a question about whether I'll get seasick. It didn't really tell me anything other than it being fun to watch. So yes, you might get some engagement from it, but it won't necessarily be as persuasive or return on your client's investment. So as far as what I'm contracted to do on this trip is I have to do 2 in-feed Instagram posts. So that's a reel, a carousel, something that's going in my actual feed. And I have to post stories every day. Now the stories are a lot more flexible, but what I want to focus on is that reel content because that's worth the most in terms of what you're charging. It's worth the most to the brand. It has the potential for an even larger reach because your stories are seen by your audience. The reels and the carousels, those can go out to an even wider audience. I definitely want to produce 1 reel while I'm here. And how am I going to structure that? Always start with a hook. And a hook can be verbal with keywords. It should also be visual with an interesting image or something eye-catching going on. A face is really great to show at the beginning, something that's going to catch your attention. In addition to the verbal and the visual hook, you want to add a text hook, which is going to be super keyword and SEO friendly and could just explain what you're about to see throughout the video. So I wrote down a few hook examples. So one could be, never been on a cruise? Watch this. Or never been on a cruise? Here are 5 things you didn't know. Thinking of cruising on your next vacation? Watch this first. 10 things Virgin Cruises do differently. 5 things that make cruising the best vacation option. Something to attract people's attention, and then you're priming them to give them some high quality information and a review kind of on the experience that you had. I also want to make 1 carousel just to differentiate the types of content I'm creating. And the carousel is fun because I'm a photographer and I also shoot video. I can get creative with shooting that high quality content and kind of film these little vignettes or take some really artistic photos to show up different experiences I'm having throughout the trip. And then I can add a music track, which will help it get more of a reach. And then it actually shows up as a reel if you add that music track. But then where the hook is coming into play is then in the copy. So in that first sentence, that's where you're going to put your hook. And that's where you want to write a good chunk of a caption with information, maybe a little bit of a story. The structure of what that looks like is going to matter as well. Because if you just put a big block of text, nobody wants to read that. So you want to make it interesting and separate it with different lines and maybe 1 to 2 sentences at a time, a checklist, emojis, something to make it easy to skim, but people will be staying on that post even longer. So some of the hooks that could go in the first line of the copy would be, you think you know Virgin Cruises? Let's flip the script. Or what if I told you that the food on Virgin Cruises is actually some of the best I've ever had? Or this one mistake could be holding you back from the vacation of a lifetime. Or want to save money on your next trip? Start here. Here's what nobody tells you about Virgin Cruises. And then in that caption is where you're going to provide tips, experiences, stories, the information people would need to know, those frequently asked questions, that myth-busting information, and most importantly, your opinion and your recommendation on the experience. The other thing you want want to make sure that you're doing with your caption is you're ending with a call to action. And there are different things you can ask people to do when they finish this post. It could be leave a comment. It could be check out the link in my bio to book your next Virgin cruise. You want them to do something. So now that they've spent time on this post, make it worth their while, start conversation, get them to like it, get them to visit the link, ask them to do something. And this is something that so many people forget to do. They just write the copy and then don't include any kind of call to action at the end. So don't forget that part. It's super important because they've spent the time on that post now. They're ready, they're primed, they're interested. Because it's sometimes that ask that like, do you want fries with that? That's going to actually convert and then get you that little piece of engagement you need to sell yourself even further. Essentially, what I'm trying to get you guys to do is think strategically about the content you're creating that's going to appeal to these brands. It's not just about a pretty picture or a pretty video anymore. That gets you part of the way there, but we want something that's going to get engagement, that's going to get views, that's going to get likes, that's going to get comments, and then that is what you can show in a case study and in your portfolio to then travel for free. So if you guys like this video and this little helpful tip here from the Caribbean, please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell to get notified for all future videos. It really, really, really does help support this channel. It keeps me thinking and researching and trying to come up with different ways to educate you guys and help you guys on your creative journey, because that is ultimately what I love to do. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. I need to go capture more content because actually today I'm doing a what I eat in the day on the cruise, which is probably the best because I get to eat food all day and like lots of it. So back to work.